Hey everybody, it's Chris, MTGO's Rexstart, and I am back once again with this week's episode of Show and Tell, the ongoing audio-video deck tech and replay series that covers the decks of the Legacy Tribal Wars format as they are played every Saturday in the Tribal Apocalypse Player-Run event right here on Magic the Gathering Online. And this past week's event was a underdog event which features three categories of decks of tribes that you are restricted to, and those are tribes that either have been played 5 or fewer times, tribes that have 50 or fewer members available online, or tribes that have never previously won the event. And somehow, shockingly, Druids had never previously won the event. One of the interesting things about when we switched from the endangered to the underdog last year was that suddenly a few seemingly powerful tribes got put back into the circulation, as it were. And I helped start the trend to knock slivers out of that category earlier in the year, even though somebody else finished it off for me. And then I also was able to get snakes and birds off of that list, and now Endless Nameless has got druids knocked off of that list, and so we are starting to thin the ranks there a little bit and get some of the more powerful tribes out. So first we're going to take a look at this druid list. It's basically just legacy elves. And he says as much in his deck tech, or sorry, his commentaries, which will be in the article. He did live audio commentary for his matches, so I will not be doing that this week, but I am going to go over the deck. Basically what he's got is he's got 19 elves, so it's just barely not an elf deck. And then he has Noble Hierarch here in lieu of say Llanowar elves or something like that, and Noble Hierarch will produce the blue to allow him to cast Beck, and Beck is his substitute for Glimpse of Nature because Glimpse of Nature was banned in Tribal Wars and the Tribal Apocalypse Player Run event anyways, and so he uses Beck instead, and that allows him to go off every time a creature enters the battlefield. He can draw a card. There's all the usual sort of elf things to do there. The deck itself has 32 creatures, so there's a pretty good shot of that happening. And Green Sun Zenith in Natural Order will also result in a creature hitting the battlefield, so really you can count those as well. There's no spell other than the other Becks, which is not going to result in a creature hitting the battlefield. So he has a very good chance of having explosive turns off of that card. And of course, in a pinch, he can use something like the Wirewood Symbiote to return an elf to hand, untap a creature, say a Priest of Titania or an Elvish Archdruid, retap it for a bunch of mana, replay that one, be able to draw a card, and possibly, start going off again. Capable of doing a lot of mana. His only real win con here, he has Regal Force, which is a beefy body, but it's really just there to draw him a bunch of cards and hopefully keep his combo turn going. He's planning to win with Craterhoof Behemoth in every match is the game plan. Terastodon is in here to take care of any sort of non-creature permanents that might be getting in the way of him comboing off. We'll see in his replay that he can use it to keep people off of Wrath mana, for instance. He can also use the Terastodon's trigger of creating 3 beast tokens to draw 3 additional cards off of a Beck, because it doesn't matter whose control the creature enters the battlefield under. So that's an interesting little interaction there. But basically he's trying to dig to the Craterhoof Behemoth with a bunch of guys and crash in for the win on that one turn. So the mana base is some fetch lands here to search for his blue. Again, the blue is entirely in there to cast Beck. He has no interest in casting the call side, although I suppose in some weird corner case he could cast it off of a Noble Hierarch, for instance, if he had a bunch of mana and had an earlier Beck out or something like that and really wanted to try to go off and dig further. Gaia's Cradle is in here as a 3 of. The legend rule, of course, has not changed yet, but will be changing to where you can play this and then tap it for mana, play a new one as your land for the turn, and tap that one for mana. So that's going to be kind of crazy when that happens, but it's already pretty busted in Elves, and he doesn't even have not using like crop rotation or anything to search it up here, but he has 3 copies, so he's able to draw it a reasonable percentage of the time. And Dryad Arbor is in here as a tutor target for Green Sun Zenith, so that on turn 1 he can Zenith for Dryad Arbor, and then he'll have 3 mana available on turn 2 to start dumping some elves out onto the field. So again, basically an elf deck with a natural order plan. It just make a bunch of mana. This is one of the things that elves. One of the reasons that you weren't allowed to play Druids this last month in the pure tribal event was that they could basically just be built as elves. And while I do think that there were other ways that you could have built Druids, this was probably the most easily ported from Legacy way to do that. And as Endless Nemus himself points out in his replay commentary, he basically whipped this together, didn't play test it a single time because it's so close to Legacy Elves that if you know how to play that deck, you really don't need to do too much play testing to play this version. So anyways, Druids knocked out of the underdog event by virtue of this win. Endless Nemus, one of the great players of the event with a lot of wins under his belt. Congratulations to him. I'm going to let him his commentary for his replays stand on its own, and I will go on and cover one more deck tech here to talk a little bit about the underdog format, where it may be heading, and that will wrap it up for the week. So come back for part 2.